Hey everyone, I'm Zadara. I'm one of the volunteers in MAIS, and today our class is going to be about both, either, neither, and also about conditions, if and whether, and when to use them. So let's start with both versus either versus neither. So here we have some examples. In the first one, we use both. In the second one, we use either. And the third one, we use neither. What I want you to observe is when we use them and what we mean when we use them, and also some little rules that kind of make it easier for you to find out which one of them you're going to use. So in the first one, we're using both, which means we are talking about the two options we're talking about. So here we have coffee and tea. So we're talking about those two options. If I say both coffee and tea are good, I'm saying that coffee is good and tea is good. So if I want to put those two sentences together, I use both and. This is really important. Always, if you're going to use both, you're going to have an and following somewhere. Just after the first option, you're going to have an and then the third option. So here we have both, first option, and third option. It's always going to be like this, the structure. So when we use both, we're talking about all the options. This is something you want to remember. That's our meaning. In the second example, we have either. So we can eat either chocolate or pudding. So which are our options? We have chocolate as our first option and pudding as our second option. Pudding is pudding. So what we mean with either is that we can choose one of them. We cannot choose both of them, but we can choose one. So if I say we can eat either chocolate or pudding, I could say that I can eat chocolate, or I could say that I can eat pudding. So how's the structure? Either, first option, or, and then second option. So when you use either, you're talking about one of the options. You have many options, but you gotta choose one. And in the third last option, we are using neither, which starts with N, just like not, you know? One interesting thing is that since you are already using N in neither, you don't need to use negative sentence. If you use negative sentence, it's going to feel a little off. It's going to be a little off. But in the informal English, people sometimes use it. But the formal one, you should not use negative sentences. So here I'm saying we can play, so I'm using a positive sentence, even though neither and nor are gonna carry this meaning that we cannot play, okay? So when I say we can play neither Ludo nor Uno, I mean that we cannot play Ludo and we cannot play Uno. So none of them. That's the meaning of neither and nor. And the structure, you start with neither, first option, nor second option. Remember that when you use neither, you want to say that none of the options are available. So here's like a little graph to make things easier. So I don't know if you have seen this in math before, but we have like two circles, and let's say that A is our first option and B is our second option, just as we have been talking before. So we could say that A is chocolate and B is playing Uno, okay? So what I mean, if I can do both, if I can eat chocolate and I can play Uno, we're talking about this purple part of the diagram. We're talking about both. And when we're talking about both, we use both and. So here I could say that both, tanana, which is our first option, and tanana, second option. I'm gonna make it bigger here. Oh, but of course relating to both. But what if I just mean that only eating chocolate, or I want to mean that I can only play Uno? Then I'm talking about one of them, and when I'm talking about one of them, we're gonna have to use either. Remember, either first option or second option. So one of them, you're gonna use either first option or second option. But what if I cannot eat chocolate and I cannot play Uno? If I can do none of them, I'm talking about none, so they are not within the circles. And in this case, I'm talking about using neither first option nor second option. So this is like the main thing you have to get from it when you're gonna use them and what they actually mean. So let's practice to see if you got it. Here we have some examples. If you want, you can like pause the video and try to answer them by yourself, but I'm gonna be helping you out. So here, Tanana were ill, so they stayed at home instead of going to school. So one thing I want you to realize is that we use the word they. And since we use the word they, it means that we're talking about more than one people. And between those options that we've seen before, both, neither, or either, which one of them talks about more than one option? Both. So this is like enough for me to know that both is the right answer, because I know it is talking about two people. So they, it's plural, it has to be both. You're gonna see the answers after, so let's skip for the second question. I didn't like of the choices. So you want to say you didn't like any of the choices, and you're not meaning I didn't like all the choices, and you're not like I liked none choices. You're saying I didn't like any of the choices. And one tip for it is like when you could substitute the word for any, it's probably gonna be either. So here, just because I know that in this empty space I could fit any, I know that I can fit either as well. So the answer is gonna be either. Question 3, I couldn't decide between them. I like them, da-na-na. So if you couldn't decide between, it's because you had options, but you just couldn't choose one. And if you can't choose one, it means that or you didn't choose anyone, or you wanted to choose all of them. But then it said, I liked them something. And if you're saying you liked them, it means that you did not want to choose none of the options. You want to choose one, you just like them all. So if you like them all, you're talking about both. Of course, all has like a meaning which seems to be more than 3 choices, but it's also like any and either. So if you could fit all, you could probably fit both. And if you can fit any, as we saw in the question 2, you can probably fit either. So here in question 3, the answer is going to be both, because you like them all, you like them both. Since we're talking about 2 things, 2 choices, you can use both. But if you were talking about like 3, 4 choices or more than that, you should use all. It sounds more, sounds better. Question 4. Tanana, you could nor hear me turned up today. So do you remember the structure we were talking about? So here I have nor. Which of those do I have nor? Is it both? No, because in both I have and. So here we see our structures. So in both I have and in either I have or. The only option I have nor is neither. So I already know that this question 4 is going to be neither, because I know it has nor in the sentence. Question 5, our last question regarding both either and neither. You can take the 38 bus or the 341 to get to town. So here it's the same thing we did before. So here we found nor in the structure, but here we don't have nor, we have or. And in which of those do we have or in the structure? It's not in either, it's not in both because it has and, but it is in either. It has or. So here in the last option, since it has or as one of the options, I know that it's gonna be either. So here's like our answer sheet. So first one, both. Question 2, either, because it's like any of the choices, so it could be like either. Question 3, you could use all, so you can also fit both if you're talking about only 2 choices. If you're talking about more than 2 choices, you're gonna want to use all. And in the 4th one, we saw that the structure has nor, which means that you should have neither. And in the 5th one, we saw the structure has or, So you would probably like to choose either in that. Okay, awesome. So that was it about both, either and neither. But now we're going to talk about conditions. So basically, we have like two different things when we're talking about conditions. We have like a past class about zero, first, second, and third conditionals. This one's kind of different. So in that class, I mainly used the if conditional, but actually we have something else when we want to do like conditions. And this word is whether. But they have like slightly differences, and that's what we're gonna take a look at. So first, I wanted to show you some examples to see if you can like find for yourself the difference between if and whether. So first example, sorry. I don't know if Harry wants tea or coffee. Second example, I don't know whether Harry wants tea or coffee. Do you see something odd in it? I'm gonna leave like some seconds for you to try to think. If you want to pause the video, that's okay. Try to think what seems different. Well, if you have already thought, when we are using if, we're talking that maybe he neither liked tea nor coffee. So maybe there's a third option. Like maybe he doesn't like any of those. He likes, I don't know, soda. Maybe that's it. So you actually don't know which kind of drink Harry likes. You think it could be tea or coffee, but it could be anything else. So that's when you use if. Use if there's another third possibility that you're not letting into consideration in the sentence. And whether, it means that there are only two choices. So let's say you were doing like a research in his life and you saw that Harry drinks a lot of tea and a lot of coffee. So likely one of his favorite drinks probably gonna be or coffee or tea. So you know that it's one of them. You just don't know which one of them. So that's when you use whether. There are no other options, just the two you are talking about. So that's the main difference. In the first example, we used if, because we actually don't know if it's tea or if it's coffee. It could be soda, it could be, I don't know, water. So we don't know exactly. But in the second example, when we use whether, we actually know that it's gonna be or tea or coffee. It has to be one of those options. So there are no other possibilities, and that's why we use whether. Another thing I wanted to highlight is the difference between if and when, because many people kind of get confused when we're talking about them. So if you're using if as a condition, so it's not certain that's gonna happen. So for example, if the coin lands on tails, I'll eat these sweets. So if the coin lands on tails, maybe it could land on heads, because a coin has like two faces, heads and tails. So you have like a 50% of chances of the coin landing on tails, which means you have a 50% of chances to eat the sweets. So it's not certain, because maybe the coin will land in heads and you're not gonna get to eat these sweets. But when you use when, it's something that it's totally gonna happen. It's like 100% of possibilities. Like you're totally sure this is gonna happen. So for example, when the coin stops, I'll know what to do. So you're flipping the coin, and when it stops, it could be heads and it could be tails, but you know you're gonna do something next. So if you say like, oh, I'm just gonna flip the coin and eat these sweets, I don't mind if it's head or tails. So when the coin stops, when you flip the coin and it stops, you're gonna eat the sweets, because you don't have like a third condition. Like you don't have conditions regarding it at all. Like it's gonna happen. It's not conditional, it's like a certainty. So that's the difference between if and when. So if is a condition, when is not. It's something I just wanted to highlight. So let's practice about the if and whether. The first example, you are confirming the date of an interview and there are only 2 possible days. Okay, if there are only 2 possible days, you know that there's no third option. When there's no third option, what should you use? You should use whether. So the answer is A, because it's only going to be on Monday or Tuesday. So as we talked about before, if you have a third option, you're going to use if. But if the options are within the sentence and there are no other possibilities, you're going to use whether. Second question, you're planning a meal for friends. Which is best? Okay, you're planning a meal and you want to know if Mark likes chicken, lobster, or quiche. Maybe he likes something else. You don't have anything indicating that he totally likes at least one of them. Maybe he likes pancakes or cakes. So you don't know for sure. There could be another possibility, which means the best way to write the sentence is using if, because there could be other possibilities that are not in the sentence. It could be instead of chicken, lobster, or quiche, it could be like pancakes, it could be rice, it could be cheese, I don't know, it could be anything. And last question, you're decorating the house and the choices are I haven't decided if you're gonna paint our kitchen blue, green, or black, or whether you're gonna paint something. Okay, so blue, green, or black. Well, are those the only colors in the world? No, they are not. So maybe you change your mind. Maybe you could just paint it pink or purple or white. So there are other possibilities than the ones mentioned in the sentence, which means you can have a third possibility, and if you can have one, we're talking about if. So the best way to write the sentence is using if. That was it for today. Those are like the references. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat or ask us in the Google Classroom or the WhatsApp groups. If you're not in the WhatsApp group nor in the Google Classroom, the links are in the description below. This is a B1, B2 class, and that's why it is 100% in English. I'm gonna say it's kind of weird to talk everything in English. I'm so worried if you're gonna understand what I'm saying. So if you're not understanding, feel free to reach out to us, and we're gonna do our best to help you. So I think that was it. The activity regarding this question is gonna be published on the Google Classroom today. Hope everyone's doing great, and that's it. Bye.